everyone. This is Lindsay Bowen with LDS Women Thriving, and I'm here today with guest Tammy Hill to talk to the single women of the church about their sexuality and being able to better connect with yourself and understand, how to channel that energy in appropriate ways while staying virtuous. So we're going to begin with me introducing this amazing woman.
Oh,
This
that's
is
nice.
Tammy Hill. She retired last year from teaching for the School of Family Life at Brigham Young University, where she taught marriage preparation, marriage enhancement, and healthy sexuality in marriage courses. She has a busy private practice where she largely works with LDS couples. She hosts the Live Your Why podcast, which I personally love listening to and learning from, which focuses on living with sexual integrity in marriage and in dating relationships. She has written several books geared towards educating parents on how to teach their children about sexuality and for couples on how to enhance their sexual connection in their relationship. She has a website, tammyhill.com, and is also active on Instagram. And I follow her and love all of the things she posts. She also loves the gospel of Jesus Christ, and she's grateful for the knowledge of eternal principles, for covenants, and for the promise of forever families. Her husband, Jeff Hill, and her are the parents of their combined families of 12 children. They both lost their first spouses and remarried each other in 2006. Jeff and her have worked diligently together to finish the work that began with their late spouses, Juanita Ray Hill and Mark Mulford. Currently, they are really enjoying being empty nesters and grandparents to 41 grandchildren, which that's amazing. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you, Lindsay.
And would you add anything else? Is there anything else you'd add to that?
No, just happy to be here. So thank you for inviting me.
Of course. So I will be asking Tammy several different questions that are geared towards helping us better understand ourselves as single women. The first question I'm going to ask is, in your opinion, how should we view ourselves sexually and grow in our sexuality as singles?
I think it's important for us all to realize that we're sexual from birth, that we have sexual parts and we have the way that our biology is wired, we have sexual responses and sexual desire and arousal. And so that's just something I think as parents, as aunts, uncles, we need to integrate this knowledge that it's not something that you just have when you're married. It's something that you live with through your entire life. And learning how to manage our sexuality, I think largely our moral development is really rooted in that piece. And so all of these questions that you sent to me are, I think, fundamentally around that moral development of us deciding what are we about, what's important, what are our core values, and choosing to live aligned with those core values to the best of our ability, realizing that we're here on earth to learn, and we often learn best through our mistakes. And so not to beat yourself up when you have to step back and relearn something. But I think when you ask the question, how singles can view themselves sexually, I hope that we're getting better as a population, as a church population, at not having it be something that is only for married people, because that's not the case. And unfortunately, I think too much of the focus sexually, I understand the need to have a focus on married people, but we need to start talking about it way before people are married. I remember teaching at Education Week. This was years ago, about sexuality. And I had a mother kind of close to the front of the room that said, I just wish that my daughter would become sexual on her wedding night. And I remember thinking, wow, this is so fascinating that this is what she's thinking. But because that's not the plan, and it's not even a healthy way to think, because this is just part of the process of growing up. And just like we have all kinds of attributes and qualities, one of our attributes is sexual, and it needs to be accepted and talked about and learned from early on. And just when I was a widow, it didn't mean that I wasn't sexual anymore. And that was frustrating. That was hard. And when we have the adult population of the church, more than half single people, we need to be talking a lot more about being sexual long before marriage.
I love this. And I've known in my heart, since I'm single as well, I have this conversation with different friends and people that are single. And because it's not spoken of, it's almost hush hushed. And so many people don't know how to channel these emotions.
Mm-hmm.
And so you've mentioned the concept of erotic energy, which is your sexual energy. And how do you feel like single adults can better manage their erotic energy and different ways they can channel it that are appropriate?
Mm-hmm. Well, let me say something about your hush hush comment, because that's exactly right. Because we don't have language that we use for singles being sexual within the church culture. Um, you feel ashamed for having totally natural physiological responses, for having totally human thoughts. And it's not right to feel so much shame and guilt around things that just are part of being human. And so I don't like that it's so hush hush. I hope it's getting better through podcasts like yours. As
Me
far as
too.
Eros energy is, you feel Eros energy. We all feel Eros energy. It's an expansive, and it is rooted in sexual love, but it's an expansive, creative energy, life force, really. Um, it's what you feel passionate about. You're passionate about podcasts. You're passionate about families and single sisters in the church. I mean, that passion when you do something that you're really excited about and really believe in, that passion is something that is Eros energy. It's that it keeps you going, it makes you happy, it gives you zest for living. Now, a lot of that is tied up in our energy, sexual energy, because sexual energy and sexual expression is a beautiful part of life. And it's a part of life that I wish everyone could experience and not have to. I mean, the laws of God are is attached to marriage, which is wise. And there's a lot of things we could talk about sexual conservatism just being wise. But this Eros energy that you feel sexually, when you feel the urges or the the curiosity or the wanting to have something more, you know, that feeling of just wanting to experience pleasure and things. There's a Freudian term actually called sublimation, which is taking that energy and using it in something that else that you're passionate about. And so when I was a widow for nearly 5 years, no, it was over 5 years after my husband passed away. I still had a lot of sexual feelings, and I missed that part of my life. And I had to learn to do other things. So I learned how to do stained glass. I started doing a lot of painting during that time, and I learned how to quilt. And so often when we utilize our hands in what it is and in creating something with sublimation, you're taking this energy that creative, expansive energy, this goodness, and putting it into your hands that are working into something that you're creating that you love and you're excited about. Maybe it's writing. It doesn't necessarily need to be something more artistic. It could be writing. It could be um, nurturing people. There's a lot of ways that we can utilize our hands, but there is a tie with sublimation, with actually tactile, doing something tactilely that makes that energy be expended from the body, used from the body, so that it's going into something then that you're really excited about or you're really proud of and you're excited to share with people.
I feel like this concept is so important for singles to understand because, especially as you get into your older single years, like into your 30s and 40s, and you're unmarried, that kind of energy, even just being able to see it as a good thing and then be intentional about, okay, I'm going to channel it this way, is is so needed. And a lot of people see these feelings as, oh, this is not good. If I want to keep with my covenants, I need to stamp this down.
Oh,
And
yeah.
obviously, that is not the way to go.
Repression or that isn't helpful. Anytime that we're stuffing things, it's like trying to hold a ball underwater when you're
Yeah,
in a swimming pool. It is so hard and it bursts out eventually. Just letting that energy roll through you, like in good ways that you are passionate about, is helpful.
I love that. How do you feel like with singles, how can they begin to see this as more a positive thing and change their perspectives on this?
Oh, I think having conversations like this are so important, Lindsay, for them to also do aptitude types of tests. There's I know Penn State University, they have their entire psych um department is all about positive psychology, which I love. Martin Seligman years ago noticed that when people go in for therapy or to work with a counselor, it's all about problems and fixing problems. And he said, what if we were to have it be like, what's going right? And have it have a total reframe. And so they have so many. If you go to Penn State University's website, you can click on all kinds of assessments for positive psychology. And there's one I really like about virtues for adults is, and you can click on that. It takes about an hour to take. And what it does is it lists off for you, they've categorized 24 human virtues, and it will list your very strongest one first. And then number 24 is the one you're the weakest at. And so, like, my number one happened to be spirituality, and the next was beauty and nature. And I can't remember exactly the order, but those are two things that I naturally are part of who I am. And when you do this assessment and get them back, it's almost like you're getting this pat on the back, like, yeah, I am this is me. This is really how I am. And then finding ways to practice those virtues in your life, it is fulfilling. It creates energy for you. It's a way to sublimate and to be passionate about things that are already innate, um, virtues that you possess or characteristics that you have. So when I'm practicing things spiritually, when I'm really studying the gospel, it makes me happy. Time goes so fast and I love it. When I'm out in nature and taking pictures or cutting flowers to make arrangements or hiking in the autumn leaves, whatever it is I'm doing when I'm in nature, that fills me with so much joy. And so I really highly recommend that Penn State assessment, or maybe you already know things that you know innately that you love. Make sure you're giving yourself opportunities to take classes, to branch out and learn new things. Sign up for stuff with friends. I know that I did a lot of stained glass work with friends that was really fun, not only socially, but I also was creating with my hand, learning a new sport like pickleball.
Mhm.
You do something new, do things that you're passionate about, and realize that, yeah, you're not really sharing yourself sexually right now, but that sexual energy can totally be put into something else that you're really um, innately passionate about, and it can create a lot of joy for you too.
That's beautiful. And for everybody, it's different. I love that you said with this test, it would help you understand specifically for you what would be the best way to go about this
Hmm.
and how to view this as a positive thing in your life.
Hmm.
I love that so much. You
Thank you.
mentioned on your podcast, Live Your Why, a couple of things about your experiences while you were a widow. And I wanted to ask, what do you feel like are the best ways to cope with lonely nights?
Mm. Lonely nights are long. Oh my goodness, I hated going to bed. It was so hard to go to bed on lonely nights. So Um, for me, I think it was a lot of prayer. It was making sure I was active throughout the day so that I had spent energy and I would be physically
Mm-hmm.
tired. It was not having caffeine after 2 p.m. so that I could sleep. Um, kind of practical things that your body needs to be able to slow down. But learning meditation techniques and yoga, doing things that you know will help you unwind at the end of the day rather than being on screens. We learn a lot of those things practically. There are urges that we have, physical urges that when you feel the need to wanting to masturbate, when you're wanting to feel something more than just being in bed alone. I have to say, honestly, I don't get in my tail in a knot about a lot of that. I think that you are accountable for you. You will, each one of us will be accountable before God for the way we choose to use this energy and be disciples of Jesus Christ. I believe that our sexuality, one of the purposes of our sexuality is to drive us to mate, is to move us towards marriage. And so taking that energy and utilizing it as best as you can to be more social, to put yourself out there to meeting people, um, helping it channel you in a direction where you're actually going to be able to be in a relationship. Um, and also realizing that uh, we just need to have a lot of compassion for each other and not be too hard on yourself when you don't resist particular urges to feel more sexual passion. I I think that a lot of times it's just we make too much of a big deal about masturbation, honestly. And or we have in the past. Now it's not even in any of the literature, and you can't even find things on the church website about masturbation. So I think we're moving into a healthier place. I think fundamentally knowing that energy is is good. It's innate and it's in each one of us, and its intention is to drive us towards a relationship. And that the best that we can keep moving ourselves towards that relationship, the better. um, I've counseled with people, with my own children at times, that if they choose, it's a choice to masturbate or not. And if you do choose to masturbate, I would absolutely say do not do it to porn. That just fundamentally messes with your whole sexual template. One of the things I work with the most with couples, unfortunately, is when one or both partners have been involved with pornography and masturbation, and now they try to relationally connect, and they don't know how because they're so into this solo sex piece, right?
Mm-hmm.
Masturbating to porn is going to really make sex with a partner challenging. So I would totally disconnect from that. And if you do choose to masturbate, I would do everything you can to sublimate and do all these things. But on those times or occasions when you fail to masturbate, I would certainly, in your mind, at least be thinking this is something I look forward to sharing sometime in a marriage relationship down the road. Keep it relational in context.
Yeah, have the correct perspective with these
Hmm.
kind of things. Because,
Right.
yes, with church culture and with just belief system, there's so much, I guess you could say controversy or just opinions about this.
Totally.
But I love that you've illustrated that it's you will one day stand before God and it's up to you and the Lord and to figure things out for yourself as to what is okay
Hmm.
and what will help you as well. So, when it comes to dating relationships and being engaged, what are your tips to help couples stay clean and pure when they're in those relationships and make choices that will prepare them to be married in the temple?
This is such an important question. And I guess the area president's wife in the UK really likes me. And they've invited me to come speak this summer to all of the young single adults in the UK about this very topic. And so I've been putting a lot of thoughts together to get my slides approved with them. I think a really fundamental thing is to recognize that sexual touch is symbolizing something. When we hold hands, when we kiss, whichever way we're kissing, when we choose to touch one another, and it's all in a romantic, affectionate relationship, it should be symbolizing the depth of the emotional intimacy in the relationship. And so I don't think we really know as a population in the US, religious or non-religious, I don't think we know how to date anymore because I think dating is just synonymous almost outside of the church with having sex and within the church with a good makeout session, you know? And I unfortunately, what's happened is that the media has gotten our framework into the place that we think that this is just supposed to happen because we're on a date rather than this should be have meaning attached to it.
Yeah.
This should mean something to both of you. What does it mean? So I think before you even get involved in dating relationships where you're going to be touching, each person needs to decide, what does this mean to me? When I'm holding someone's hand, does this mean that I'm exclusive in a relationship or not? Does it mean I'm just out for a nice evening? If I'm kissing someone, does it mean I'm exclusive? I will tell you, if you want to confuse yourself, kiss more than one relationship at a time, and you're going to be so confused because those our bodies are created in such a way that when we're holding, when we're making out, when we're kissing and spending time holding, all of the neuroscience that's going on in our brain is for attachment and bonding. And when that relationship doesn't last and that bond is fragmented over and over again, it makes it increasingly difficult for us to trust that this bond is going to be secure, that this attachment's really going to be there, right? And so if you are dating, I have a client right now, I visited with her this week. She's divorced in her 50s and she's dating three men. She's kissing all three of them. And it's just like, what? She thinks this, she's having such a hard time deciding. And it's like, well, you're confusing yourself. So the more physical activity you have with multiple people as you're trying to discern a relationship, the more confused you're going to be, because our bodies are hardwired differently than that. And so make sure that what you're doing means something to you. Make sure you're in a relationship with someone that when something's happening, when you have a kiss, that you're able to step back and say, you know what, that means to me is that we're exclusive. What does this mean to you? And it might mean something totally different to this other person. It means that we went out together tonight. It means that I paid for your dinner. I don't know what it means, but I, you have to make sure that what you're doing means the same thing to both of you. And that requires a depth or a level of emotional intimacy where you're able to comfortably talk about those things. And so I always say postpone the physical as long as possible. Um, Let yourself see clearly how well you even like this person. Let yourself spend time getting to know someone in a way that you can really trust that they actually do what they say they do, that they show up when they say they're going to show up, right? That they don't end up ghosting you. And I know that and when I taught at BYU, a lot of students, particularly female students, would say, "Well, then they won't date me again if I don't put out." My answer was always the same. Well, do you really want to be with someone that you need to put out for? If they're going to be able to keep you, you're worth everything. You absolutely don't have to put out to be in a relationship. And if someone's demanding that, that's not a relationship you want to stick with.
From what I hear what you're saying, you need to know your worth. And in relationships, you need to learn to communicate and try to be on the same page with one another.
Right. Well, and understand what things mean to you, because there could be some differences, and there could be some differences that are real extreme, and there could be differences that, oh yeah, I never thought of this before. Um, if I'm kissing you goodnight, for me in my mind when I was single and dating, it meant that I was dating you exclusively and you're dating me exclusively. And that we're done exploring. We're exploring this relationship now to see what's going to happen here.
I think that is so healthy. And keeping that kind of perspective when you're entering into relationships, it, I feel like it will make all the difference for us and help things not be confusing and
Yes,
more fun too, because
so
you
much
feel
more.
like you're moving together.
Yes, so
I
much more
love
fun
that.
because you want that emotional intimacy. You don't want to move forward with someone that you don't know, that you don't trust, that you can't really feel like you can rely on them, right? So I have a 14-day challenge that I did at BYU that that works. It works. And I do dating boot camps for young single adults. And this year I'm doing a dating boot camp for older adults as well. Um, and this formula, the 14-day formula challenge, is that you ask someone that you're friends with or that you're interested in if they would exclusively do things with you for 14 days. So it's like you're exclusively dating, although there's no physical touch involved in it. There's no romantic touch, right? And so you just, as much as possible every day, do something with this person, whether it's a bike ride, a hike, going to dinner, whatever, but you're actively doing things. And at the end of 2 weeks, you sit down and you have a talk and you say, how do you feel about our relationship? And if it feels like, I'm kind of forcing it, it's not feeling as natural as I really like it to, then it's probably a good idea just to say, okay, it's been fun 2 weeks. Thank you for doing that, spending that time with me. But for many people, after 2 weeks of not having all of the pressure that they have to do this physical part of the relationship, they've become good friends and they like doing stuff together and they want to keep doing stuff together. If that's what it's like at the end of 2 weeks, then I say to you, great. Now start slowly adding in the physical touch along with all these other things that you've been doing. And then in another 2 weeks, sit down and evaluate. How do we feel? Do we feel like things are going well? We're excited about each other. We're learning about each other. We're coming to trust each other. Then, yeah, let's do it another 2 weeks, right? And keep going. I've had over 300, I think it's close to 350
Oh,
couples now from BYU when I taught there that have married because of the 14-day
oh,
challenge.
that's so beautiful. I love that.
It works. It just works because you're really learning about each other without the pressure, like I said, of the physicality, or that this has to be something that's going to be, people date each other for years sometimes before they decide to get married or break up. There's not all of that time to have to worry about it. It's just 2 weeks. And then we're going to talk about it. And what happens is they end up really enjoying each other's company and realizing that the best marriages really come from the best friendship.
I love how simple that is. We sometimes overcomplicate it, don't we?
Oh, so
Of what
well,
it takes to find someone that
the
works with
media
you.
has made it tough for sure.
When it comes to sexual sin, when you're tempted to commit sexual sin, what are some suggestions you would give to single adults and how to prepare for those kind of moments?
Well, I give this to single and married adults alike that any time is sexual sin or any type of sin, when you are considering or feeling tempted to live differently than what your core values are or what you've covenanted with God about or what you truly believe is the most valuable, is really valuable to you. When you're being tempted to choose differently, come back and remember that true happiness comes from living aligned. True happiness, and that's a vertical alignment with heaven, right? This this alignment is what will bring you the greatest happiness, the greatest peace. And if you want to be miserable, live different than your values. So you can kind of see where my hands are. If
Yeah.
this is my core
Mhm.
values, that's why my podcast is called Live Your Why. And if this is my why and my covenants are here, and I'm being tempted and choosing to do a little bit here, maybe a little more later, The distance between your core values and what you're actually choosing to do is the gulf of misery. I'm convinced of it. The more you choose to live differently than what you really believe you should be living, the more miserable you'll be. And Satan loves company. So
Yeah.
that, that I just would really urge you to line your behaviors and actions with what you really truly believe, because that is where you'll find just the greatest joy and peace. You'll be able to look at yourself in the mirror. You won't be hiding. You won't be lying. You'll just be you, and you will be someone living as someone that you would like to attract. That's a core fundamental principle, that you attract who you are, not what you want. So you might want something that's like this, but if you're living over here, you're certainly not going to attract someone that's living like this.
Hmm.
The more you're trying to live like this and live according to what you really believe in, the more you're going to attract someone that's living similarly. And so recognize that you'll be peaceful and you'll be attracting people that you do want to attract.
That's perfect. And when you're looking for somebody that is in that realm that wants the same things as you, usually they're trying to live aligned with their why as well.
Right. And fundamentally, marriage is built on trust. If we have a triangle like this, we've got God, our covenants, dreams, everything up here, husband and wife, and across the bottom of this triangle is the foundation of trust. And the more you know each other, the more you really are who you say you are, and they are who they say they are, the thicker this piece of this foundation becomes, the more secure this becomes. And because so much of my work is sexual, and so much of what we want is a real passionate sexual marriage, we all want that. The
Yes.
thing is that if you don't have this thick foundation of trust, being able to feel free to really show up sexually in a marriage isn't there. So
Yeah.
you really lining up and living what you believe is good for your own peace. It's going to attract someone, but it's also going to establish a firm foundation in your marriage where both of you can totally show up outside of the bedroom and in the bedroom. And I don't know that there's many things that are more fun than two wholehearted people married showing up in the bedroom. And it's worth working for.
Thank you so much for all of this advice and all of your thoughts on these things. I really do value all your experiences. And
Thank
I
you.
want to end with one more question. And this question is very simple. What is the best advice you can give our single sisters in the church?
I thought about this. We've been going to do this for a little while now, and we're finally getting together. And I've thought about it several times, and I believe the answer I want to say is there are a lot worse things than being single. There are a lot harder things than being single. And when I counsel with couples where there's been that betrayal of trust, where there's things that are going on that are so heart wrenching, and you see the pain going on within people's hearts and minds, I often sit and think it would been so much easier for this person to stay single than to be in what the dynamic in the relationship that they're in. And so it isn't ideal. It isn't probably what most of us want. But I can honestly tell you, being in an unhappy, miserable marriage is much harder than being single.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Tammy, thank you for joining us today. And in general, I'm just grateful to meet you. You are a beautiful
You.
person and you really do add value to those of us that are in the church that are trying to do what is right and learn more about how to live sexually. So
I
thank you
hope
so
so. Thank
much.
you so much, Lindsay. It's been an honor to meet you.